We out of red in England. All aboard, yeah, you know it's Hype Train FC. Modern ambition, we got blue and gold in our kit. Plus, you know we the champs of the league, and we don't quit. Started from grassroots, yeah, the sport, we ain't taking it light. You know it's real, from fantasy to the field. You better believe the hype. Yeah.
Hello, one and all. My name is Robert Austin, and a very warm welcome to the Hype Train FC YouTube channel. And today, for the 15th edition of our podcast, we have another special guest on today. This time from Sunday League Football, we have one of the top Premier teams, FC Bapco, on board with Sheldon Baptiste, who is the manager of the team, coming on today to talk all things Sunday League with me, primarily about what it takes to run and operate a high-level Sunday League team. We go through some of the intricacies that make Sunday League football at the top level different, their involvement in the FA Sunday Cup as well, which is basically an amalgamation of all of the top teams within England playing out for the Sunday Cup. And aside from that as well, we're also talking about challenges and the things that we've learnt along the way with Sheldon, who basically has taken his team straight away from day one to the top of the Sunday League pyramid. Hi everyone, this is Rob from Hype Train Podcast, and this is episode 15. Hopefully this is going to be airing sometime in February or March of 2024, and I've got a special guest lined up with me. Sheldon, do you want to introduce yourself?
So hi, my name's Sheldon. I'm the manager at FC Bapco that we play in the Reading Sunday League in the Premier Division. So obviously we're the current division winners from last season, so looking to defend our title again this season.
So for people that don't know FC Bapco or anything about the Reading football scene, give us a bit of an introduction about Bapco, when they formed, a little bit about the club.
So Bapco was formed in 2021. It was formed by our chairman, Sheldon Baptiste, and his two friends, McCoy Palmer and Junaid Bell. I don't know, that couldn't come out.
Yeah.
They came obviously and said to me, would I be on board in managing the team? I was like, my only requirement is that were just a couple of things. Commitment, can we commit? Can everyone on a Sunday turn up on time? And can we just create an environment where it's useful to footballers? Because I always believe, like, no matter what people say about Sunday football, I think no matter where we all go in our footballing careers, we all start in the parks. So I think when players are not having a great time on the Saturdays, there should always be an environment where not only can they come and play, but play with other good players. So that's our thing. That's our sort of mantra, where quality players come and play with other quality players. Just to get some might come in 2 or 3 games because they just need to boost their confidence to get back into their Saturday sides, and so on and so forth. So, and then in our first season, obviously, we went unbeaten and did a treble. So winning the Bucks and Bucks Sunday Cup 11-2, winning the Tyler's Charity Cup 6-2, and obviously winning the senior division league title as well. So all of those whole season unbeaten.
Yeah, you didn't lose a single game. Any draws? No. Any nearly games where you? So we had lost,
one draw against Sporty, which was 1-1 at Coley, but it was just straight shellings, man, the whole season.
Yeah, that's good. So for people that don't understand the Football League pyramid in Reading, if you're watching outside, the Reading Sunday League has Div 4, Div 3, Div 2, Div 1, and it used to have a senior and a Premier division as well. Since then, it's kind of like merged into one, the senior and Prem.
Yeah.
Bapco are at the tippy top. They've won in the first year. They won everything, County Cup, League, and the Internal Cup as well. Was the final held at the Medeski Stadium?
Yeah, Medeski Stadium. Yeah, that was against Sporty, which was probably our main rivals in our first season. We had some good games, good battles with them, and at the final we won the game 6-2.
So I just want to pick on something you said earlier, which I think is quite interesting. So when you went in with your conditions for taking over Bapco and getting involved, you wanted to make sure that you could have that commitment. From day one, was it already known that you were going to have a team that could compete at that top level that you knew you could guarantee it, or was it a lot of hard
Yeah,
work to
because
be able to
essentially,
ensure that?
I would obviously, when we got the team together, obviously the quality of the team, it was a case of where do we start? Do we start in Division 4 and work our way through the leagues, or do we just go in straight because of the level of players we have access to? So obviously, once I did the league, because once you just to give a bit of background for anyone thinking of starting a Sunday team, obviously you have to apply to the league. Obviously, once they get your application, they'll look over it. Then you have to have a meeting with the league to see, obviously, a face-to-face meeting. And then obviously they will then go behind that and then vote to allow you to enter, into the
That's all right.
Sunday league. So once we've got past all of those administrative processes, I just said the team's too good to go in to the lower divisions, just because it'll just turn into it wouldn't be as fun. You'll end up beating teams 20s. Like, it's just not fun doing that. So we went in at the highest division, which was the senior division. One, it being, I think there wasn't as many teams in there, so it made sense to put us in there. And then, once we understood where we were, I just said to the boys, it's commitment. We have to give the commitment. That's the only way I'm going to give up my Sundays, essentially, to run a successful Sunday team.
And with the whole, you want players to be on time, and you want to create that structure to have it be as professional as it can be with attitudes and winning. How do you try get that across to players? What's kind of the expectations to them on a match day?
I'm a quite open person, innit? Like, because I've worked in management my whole life. Like, I don't like certain conversations are easier to have with people. Like, I deal with people on a regular basis, so I just say it out nice and clear. Like, we meet at 9:30, with obviously a 15-minute grace, because I say 9:30, but most players will turn up at 9:45, change, and then obviously warm up is at 10 o'clock. So we get a good 20-minute warm up, which is what obviously most professional clubs do. You get a 20-minute warm up, get the lungs nice and hot, and the muscles nice and moving. But it's just setting the standard. I think because the boys see how much I put into getting communication to them on time, looking after, obviously, communicating to them when yellows need to be paid. They obviously reciprocate the same back to me when it comes to timekeeping. Obviously, like anything, you have people that will try and push the boundaries, but like, it's just straight and honest conversations. And it's about bringing the right characters as well. I think as much as Bapco has a lot of talented footballers, I think in our group we have the right people that all work in the same direction, and people that have a level of respect for each other as well, which is probably one of the biggest things. So I think once everyone is pushing in the same direction, it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah, I think we have over time, I've had different spells of, we haven't had the blessings of a Bapco in one season. So grassroots teams are lower down the pyramid. We kind of have to pick and choose, well, not pick and choose. We have to kind of like accept what we have sometimes with our players and our availability. So it means that there will be some games where I'll be looking at my watch. It'll be 10 o'clock in the morning and there's only half the squad there and I'm fuming. Everybody else is fuming. And then, you're right about having the right characters in. Even if you have the correct and honest conversations with people that aren't the right characters, then sometimes they push back. They don't want to deal with people. They want to do everything on their time. And then I've had seasons where everybody's there on time or early because they're just super keen. And it comes in waves. The lower down you go, it comes in waves, from my experience. So
no, it definitely does. But I think obviously, I think for every team they have to understand their why. This is why I think, especially in the top division of the Sunday League in Reading, you get like a lot of teams have now been created because everyone's thinking we need to rival Bapco. But we have our why, and our why is to always create an environment for quality players to play. Don't get me wrong, I think there's loads of quality players in Reading, and you can build teams that can rival and be competitive with Bapco.
Mm.
We're not always going to be on top. That's just the cycle of football doesn't always allow for that. But I think what helps is obviously when you win. That's a big motivating factor. But also we have a good age group as well. I think when you find players that are still hungry to play the game Saturday and Sunday, I think it helps because they just want to play football irrespective of who they're up against and where they're at. But I think going back to my point of the why, everyone has to find their why. It's not necessarily about trying to build a team just to beat Bapco. It's about what's your why, how are you going to get longevity in what you're doing. Because we've seen teams come, have loads of words for us on social media and not been able to sustain a full season because they haven't found their why. And that's the only thing the only bit of advice I can give to any team or persons trying to start a team. Find out what's your why. Your why might just be just to create a brotherhood, a group of friends, a group of people that just want to stay active on a Sunday. Nothing's wrong with that. You might lose, you might win, but as long as you're meeting the requirements of your why, you will always have the longevity.
So, do you think this happens, the why, at the top end of the division? So, I'm going to go through and we're going to kind of like pivot onto the Premier Division at the moment in the Reading Sunday League. I've got it up on my phone here. And I'll put it up on the screen for the audience to watch at the same time. So, as we're recording, it's the 16th of Jan. There's 7 teams in the Premier Division. So you've got Give Back, Burfield FC, 116 Exiles, yourselves, Bapco, Tyler Stale Patrons, Emma Green, and GC United. And we've seen quite a lot of teams in the Reading area fold recently, be it high level, Div 4 level, anything in between. What is from your point of view, you've been in that environment for 2 or 3 years now. What's been said to you guys about the lack of teams at that level that want to compete in the Premier Division?
I think essentially it's like, obviously teams don't want to come up because whether or not everyone wants to admit to it, it's because obviously if Bapco wasn't in the senior division or Bapco wasn't created, I think you probably see a probably bigger senior or top division just purely because everyone would sort of look at it and goes, we've got a chance. But I genuinely believe at the start of the season, everyone has a chance. Because, again, it goes back to what are you doing it for and your style of play. It's football. We all start on an even keel. Yes, we have some of the best players available to us in Reading. But like last season, our second season shows, like, we went out of the Tireless Charity Cup to TRB Tesla's. We went out of...
big shock that. I think everybody heard with it.
Yeah, we were like, so it just says, and some of that, obviously, the second season was maybe we went into that season full of ourselves, not understanding that now every game, everyone wants to beat you. It becomes a scalp. And I still think we have that now, because sometimes when you see the performance levels of teams against us, and then a week later they would lose to probably a team they should have beat. But it's because everyone just rises their levels to play Bapco. But what I'm saying is about if we park Bapco to one side, it's about creating the most competitive league, senior division or senior or top division in Reading Sunday League. That should be the aim. Like, you can't have a top league with just 7 teams in it. It just doesn't scream a competitive league. Teams have to come up and whether or not they feel as though they might lose 6-0 or they might lose 5-0, have a good go. Like, just it's about creating a competitive. I don't know how the league committee is going to go about doing that, but you can't have a senior division or a top division in Reading Sunday League with just 7 teams. It's not sustainable, in my personal opinion.
It's the same in Bracknell at the moment. They've only got 7 or 8 teams in their Premier Division. They've had 2 pull out, and some of the Basingstoke teams, I think, are at 9 as well. I think there seems to be an epidemic of the Premier Divisions at the moment being 10 or less teams as a maximum. And so when I spoke to a few people, I spoke to James Mason on the podcast. I've spoken to a few people in, when you speak to people going, oh God, how did we resolve that at committee meetings? The consensus has to be either you merge Premier Divisions from other leagues, or and then you bring up, say, one or two of the best teams from Div 1 in, say, Bracknell or Reading, or you basically just tell the teams that are being belligerent or being sticks in the mud just to say, get over it. You're going to have to do it at some point. You have to step up. And the league at some point has to say, look, we don't care if teams are going to fold. We have to have a top-down approach. We have to fill the Prem and work down. And the committee, I think they're a lot of senior people, and they don't want to hurt people's feelings too much from my point of view. They're happy to work up, like Surrey, who were very, very good. They're in Div 1 in the semi-finals of the County Cup. They wanted to stick them in Div 3 or 4 to start. And I think a few teams sniffed out who they were, and they were like, look, maybe it's time to, start them up a little bit higher. Not in the Prem for the first year, but stick them in Div 1, give them a good year, and then go up. But everyone says the same thing, start top down. You have to have 12 to 14 teams.
You have to have, because ultimately everyone below that has to have an appetite to aspire to play in that division. And that's how it was when I was younger. Like, a lot of the big teams, like your Right Choices, your D Roads, your Whitley Taverns, like the senior division was very, very competitive. And to be fair, like the last 2 seasons, it has been obviously our games between Sporty have been very, very, very competitive game, close. The last 2 seasons they run us, the title went down to the last day, but you want that to be 3 or 4 teams and not just the 2 same teams every year competing it out for the league title. But I think obviously cost comes into play. I think the sustainability of running a Sunday league team isn't cheap. Obviously, there's no huge financial donor that's there that's keep pumping in money into the thing. It's amongst everyone involved in the Sunday setup that provide the funds that we use, obviously, to pay for pitches. And obviously facilities is a massive thing as well. Like, I think
big time.
The FA and the local counties need to look into creating better facilities, like where it protects players firstly from injuries, and just find a way to just better facilities and more cost effective. Because I think the longer this goes on, I think the Sunday league feeling is just gonna just slowly just edge away, and you're gonna see a lot of teams just flip to Saturday and just in order to get some sort of football for in a local aspect, or more people just going, well, we'll just pack it in.
Yeah, I'm involved in Saturday and Sunday football, and I kind of see it from both sides. Sometimes you get Step 6 clubs that are right at the bottom of the ladder. They're involved in leagues where the facilities and the cost of the facilities at that level is basically one tiny little step up from normal park football.
Yeah.
But the cost factors go from minuscule to really high just because of the arena they've entered.
Correct.
And there's so many teams that drop down back into that normal grassroots fold where it's sustainable and manageable, because it's just like the entry fees to Hellenic leagues or combined counties leagues can be up to like £1,000 just for an entry fee.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If a club is struggling for money from a sponsor, or struggling to raise funds from a team, especially as everybody's pockets are being pinched by, cost of living crisis, or just everything going up in price all the time, people having less money, it means that clubs are literally being forced down one avenue or 2 avenues of either, okay, we need to reduce the number of teams we have, we need to reduce the input that we have, or we just have to stop and just save our money. And,
correct.
So a lot of teams, it's difficult to get up the ladder. There are Marlow and teams like Newbury. There's so many teams that just cannot sustain even at step 6 level, and there's no money in the game
No.
for men and adult men's teams at the moment. And rightly so, a lot of money is being pumped into the development of the women's game at the moment and trying to improve certain facilities like 4G grounds everywhere, which, don't get me started, I don't think they're sustainable over the long time, because I mean, I don't know about you. Do you train in midweek at all?
Yeah, we train on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of 4G pitches. I think they're bad. They're not good for players, obviously, in terms of joints. You see, I think studies have shown there's been an increase in, obviously, ACL injuries because of 4G pitches. Nothing beats grass for me, but I get it. We live in a country where it can go from rain, like winter time is always a tough time in grassroots football because the weather can just obviously rain off games. So I see why, but I think there's more that can be done in terms of the FA, for instance, helping trickle down some of that money at the top end of the game into non-league to help clubs with better drainage infrastructure. I think that will make a massive impact to a lot of football clubs, just having better drainage in and out of the grounds, so that obviously when there's high levels of rain, that is able to run off and help with keeping those games on throughout the winter period. But yeah, man, it's tough, and I understand why a lot of teams fold, because it's taxing on the pocket. Because sometimes, as managers / owners of clubs, like sometimes a lot of it comes out of your own pocket, and in order to provide an environment for others to enjoy.
Yeah, like we train up at at the moment we're sporadically training on and off, and the cost of the JMA for the school in Reading, I've got a big issue with third-party booking agents that facilitate these venues. They are just money sharks as well. So clubs have to basically deal with these people that are looking at us as pure profit as well. And when we were at the JMA, they've changed booking provider now, and I've been pleading for them to review their prices at the venue. But beforehand, they gave everybody a big spiel about how everything had to go up by 25%. Every cost had to go through the roof because of the cost of living crisis. And we were like, hold on a minute. Like they wanted to pay their staff more, and that was our whole reason. And they didn't give us any concrete reasons why, just a load of shady answers why they needed to basically up our booking cost from £75 a week to 110 and everything. And then that means you've got to basically raise the cost from £5 to £7 just to break even. Just to break even from a session, and you can't. And when you come to justify that to your team, you're like, okay, why is there a price increase? And you're like, well, I don't really know. They just want to do it. So, yeah, third-party booking agencies as well they're the worst. They're not in it for the progression of teams. There's a lot of youth teams that don't train anymore. At the JMA, the pitches up there are becoming more empty day by day. And I see it across the road as well at South Reading. Their prices are slightly cheaper, but it's difficult for teams to get in the doors now and really want to train. And when it comes to, me, I put a lot of money into the club, but when it comes to saying, oh, am I okay to take a £200 loss this month on training? The answer has finally turned from yes to absolutely no.
No, yeah, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, no, it's
not sustainable.
And yeah, so hopefully there's something can be done, because if you wanted to book out for people that don't that want to start a team, think, oh, I'd have to play on a 4G pitch. Not only you're dealing with injuries and risks of joints and everything else going wrong with your body playing on there consistently, you've also got to put up with £300-400 prices for games.
Yeah, because how they do the booking is it's an hour for. It's just not sustainable. But I think something you sort of touched on in regards to the men's game, I think, like, you're right. I think everyone's doing, like, obviously, it's brilliant growing the women's game. I'm an advocate for that. I think it's brilliant. I think, obviously, as someone who's a father to a young girl, I think it's great for her as she gets older to see a clear pathway into the women's game. And not only if she chooses to choose it as a profession, she's rewarded, rightfully so, for her talent. Loads always gets done for youth football, But I think, yeah, you're right. Men's grassroots football was just the last thing thought of. But the way I sort of say to the powers that be, like, what about the kid that obviously does youth football, young guy, gets to like 18, can't really play youth football anymore, but doesn't really have aspirations to go and chase non-league, just wants to play, loves the game, just wants to be like his favorite player he sees on telly. Where do those players go? Because that's what grassroots is for a lot of us. Is we get to replicate what we see our favorite players growing up loving football, and we try and replicate what they do, what the pros do, essentially. So I think more can be done to support, especially men's grassroots football, especially in the Sunday League. I think I've always been an advocate for. I think a lot of the Premier League clubs should trickle down a lot of that obviously when a transfer happens, 1% of that transfer gets trickled down into the grassroots system, and then that's dispersed through the individual FAs to help with different and sometimes it might not even be we need physical money. It might be, okay, can we get a kit to get a couple of kits, or to get some balls, just something that reduces the cost.
Big time.
Big time. Like, and then the cost of a kit, then you can put back into obviously keeping the club sustainable for 3 or 4 seasons, or even maybe introducing some sort of prize aspect to when you win one of the county cups, for instance. I'm not saying it could be thousands of pounds, but if you get a small check for £250, that's a huge difference to a Sunday League. Just kind of coming into the times of we're in 2024 now, where everything has some level of financial incentive to it. So maybe those are some of the things they can look at in order to help really keep grassroots men's football, especially on the Sundays, going.
At the moment, the only thing I ever see is the Football Foundation. All the money seems to go into the Football Foundation, and then they divvy out a lot of grants, and a lot of it is people have to put in applications. For example, we need improved drainage, we need to relay the pitch, we need floodlights. So a lot of the money does go into elements like that to try to build it up. But largely, when I was doing some research, Simon Jordan on TalkSport talks about all the time about how the Premier League and Sky have not lived up to their end of the bargain when they said that they would put in 2% of the TV rights deal into grassroots football, which would equate to like £500-600 million.
Yep.
And just the money just is not filtering through. They're not giving it up. They're not honouring their contracts.
Correct.
And that's what they promised. And the main thing that the MPs argued at the time is look, if you're going to dominate the sport, you have to give back to grassroots. If you're going to take people away from playing football to force them to either watch it or be part of that product instead of grassroots football, then you have to stimulate the economy in grassroots football to keep that alive, because you kill it. And they just haven't lived up to their end of the bargain. So it's a tough time. And I have a lot of conversations where I get quite worried about the future of adult football, be it men, women. I feel like when we get the women's game up to a level, we're going to eventually hit the ceiling that the men have hit, where we're now having these conversations, and it's only going to replicate because at the end of the day, we're going to share the same facilities. We're going to share the burden. And, for example, my groundsman at Calcott Recreation Ground, lovely lady called Jackie, I spoke to her about, what football used to be like. And she said that they used to get 10 times the amount of money just to sustain their pitches. And there's government cuts now. Everything's bare bones. Maintenance crews are trimmed all the way back, so she can only have a couple of maintenance officers. But she said back in the 90s, you didn't need alternatives. Pitches were maintained so well.
Correct.
So even if you have one weekend where there's football called off, you're never going to have it called off the next week because of it. Like you mentioned, D Park, they play across the road. They used to play across the road from me at Victoria Rec.
Yeah, Victoria Rec,
that pitch used to be maintained so well.
Pristine,
and it used to be,
pitch.
It was amazing. And now, if any, I've featured it on a previous podcast. I walk around, the facilities have graffiti all over. They haven't been used in 15 plus years now.
Now, I think it's been because of Legionnaire's disease. I think that.
Yeah, but it only got to that point because they didn't maintain the facility because of the government cuts to facilities and maintenance officers. They just
That's it.
Yeah, so they just couldn't. They needed to replace the changing facilities, and they just said, it's too much money. We're just going to leave it. We're just going to let clubs die." And now, bless them, the only people I see up there are some of the under 12 girls teams.
Just the kids, the kids and
just
girls
the kids,
teams.
Yeah, they just don't need to. That don't need any facilities.
Changing facilities, no.
Yeah, which I think is bad enough, because what if one of them needs to go to the toilet? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? It's tough. So yeah, we've got a lot of issues, but there's a lot of promise as well, I think, in football. I think people like ourselves and others in the Sunday League and Saturday League scene are really forcing the issue to try to keep it alive.
You have to, otherwise, as you said, like you just touched on, it'll just die, and you can't have that, because as much as we all love watching the pros on TV and in stadiums, we still love playing the game itself, and winning and enjoying it, lifting trophies and sharing memories with our teammates, friends and family as well. So I think the more people talk about it, the more we have these conversations, hopefully over time the changes that need to happen start happening, but not just happening, but happening at a rate that we can all still benefit from it while we're still here.
Oh, big time! Especially because if you're a climate change advocate, we haven't got too long on the planet, according to a lot of those people. So, yeah, something needs to be done now. And aside from that, as part of that as well, we need to make sure that what we have right now is also working as well. I'll go back to the Prem division. I think in the Prem it's mid-January, and you guys have only played 4 league games out of.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I think we've got 2 games in hand on give back. But
how does that come about?
I think for us, that's because of obviously our cup runs have been we're in the FA Sunday Cup, so each Sunday we're in that. Obviously, any league game gets obviously postponed, so because that obviously takes priority. So, but
how did that come about?
What, the FA Sunday Cup? Obviously,
yeah. How did that come about?
It's something we've talked about as a group, because I think you want to test yourself against the very best, and obviously it's considered a competition where the very best of Sunday League teams across England competing. So obviously, first and foremost, you apply through the FA competitions website. It's a 40 quid entry cost. And obviously, you then wait to hear back. And obviously, this season we were accepted. And then, we just began our journey. The first round was at Marlow. We played that where we won 21-0. Second round, we played at Giveback's ground, which was a good competitive game against a good side from Bournemouth. We won that 2-0. Third round was played at Reading City, where we won 6-0 against a very good, again, competitive side. Because you never know what you're up against, in terms of quality level. So you prepare as best you can. And then obviously now we've got a fourth round tie away to Beatty squad, which obviously... Everyone knows what
big YouTube team, yeah.
Big YouTube team in London, huge following. But again, we going down there on Sunday, prepared to have a good game, and hopefully we get ourselves into the quarterfinals of the FA Sunday Cup.
In terms of the standard of the teams that are applying and entering this competition, I know that you guys have you had an easy game against Marlow, but what's kind of the level with these teams from across the board? Because it's an interesting question, isn't it? About gauging quality across the counties. Yeah.
The prerequisite of you entering, you have to be performing. You have to participate in your top division within your Sunday League, or you have to win one of the county cups or one of your cups, your major cup within your league. So. Every senior division league is different in terms of quality. The the both teams we play from Bournemouth, I think in their senior division is only 6 teams. So that goes to show like how competitive that league itself is. I think when you sort of look at up north, because obviously still remaining in the FA, I think there's 2 teams from Liverpool. But when you look at their divisions up there, it's like 13, 14, 15 teams. So makes it very nice and competitive. And obviously, we know what the London teams, obviously, like competitive teams. But the prerequisite is you have to be performing in your top division in order to get accepted into the FA Sunday Cup.
So would they reject somebody that had finished, say, second bottom of the Prem, or is it they're only looking at the top top 2?
I think you can you can try to you can apply. Obviously, if you participate in the senior division, you're more than welcome. But obviously, from a cost perspective, it's not a cheap thing to do. Obviously, for us this season has been quite expensive in terms of with Atrium not being ready to obviously host games due to obviously the facility changes down there. Obviously, we've had to seek out obviously grounds to play and host these games, obviously, and that's not cheap to hire a non-league ground to host your FA Sunday Cup game. So from that perspective, I would say to make sure your finances is in order and you have good financial support before you enter into that competition.
So I'm assuming that the way that the cup formats are, they kind of put the southern teams together and then the northern teams.
Yeah, so I think up until the 4th division is regional. Yeah. And then I think after that it opens up, and then obviously if we're successful into the 5th round, I think we can get a team in Liverpool. And if it's an away trip, we have to travel up there.
Yeah. Is that with that? So that exact trip to Liverpool. Let's say you get past Beatties and then you end up having to go say to Liverpool. God, how do you even plan that? Do you get the guys to go the night before?
So we have to go the night before. There's no way. I mean, Liverpool in a coach is you probably have to leave Reading about 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, depends on what time the kickoff is.
4.5 hour journey, which is doable, but like essentially you're probably best off looking at staying up there the night before. Then at least everyone can get up, have some breakfast, take their time to wake up, and then you make your way to the game. But again, all of these things will cost. You have to get obviously hotels for everyone. Then you have to get a coach from the hotel to the ground, and so on and so forth. So it just takes great planning and deep pockets.
Oh yeah, big time. So I've got a question about playing at top level football, and we've kind of like touched on a few elements about how the top divisions are shrinking and how everything is kind of, you need more competitive environments. What's the difference between top level football on Sunday compared to other divisions that makes it a factor for these teams to have these divisions be smaller, where teams are essentially running away from that challenge? What makes that level of football different whenever you play?
It's just the fact that obviously, I can only speak on Reading. A lot of the players are obviously players that have played in the non-league pyramid, innit? Or currently playing the non-league pyramid from anywhere from step 6 right up to step 3 or 2. But obviously, these are players that are very good, but they're non-contracted. Because that's another thing, like, once you sign a contract at a non-league club, you're not allowed to participate in Sunday football. So I think that's where it is. You're coming up against players that take the game and have that competitive edge versus maybe some people just want to still turn up half cut from the Saturday and just kick a ball. But I think in the senior or Premier Division is clubs that want to be competitive and want to win and show something for their efforts. But obviously, in Reading, it's essentially if you're a Division 1 side and you come up into the Premier League and you play Bapco and you have a day where 4 or 3 of your players are still half cut from the 9, you might go home with a 9 or 10 nil beating. So if you're getting that continuously on a regular basis, I think it can be off-putting. But I think that's the only difference. I think a lot of clubs, the 7 clubs that are in the Premier Division, just have players that still play within the non-league Saturday pyramid. And when it comes to Sunday football, there's a level of competitive sharpness that you might not get lower down the other divisions.
Yeah, and we played Givebacks reserve team the other week, and we played them at the academy pitch where you played your cup game.
Yeah,
and we're a normal team in terms of like players. We don't have anybody that's like super amazing, but we're a growing team. And when we played the Giveback team, it's just those type of pitches when you're not used to playing and you don't maybe have the fitness levels compared to players that are playing regularly at step 2, step 3, all the way down. For example, it means that you're more error prone when you hit the 60th minute, where they're running you ragged and then your passes become loose, your legs become a little bit weaker over the game, and you're playing on these giant academy pitches.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams do struggle with that level of intensity because these teams are relentless. And, I think when we played them, we lost 9-0. I'm happy to admit that because they're a bloody good team.
Got some good players in that.
Yeah,
in that
good
side.
players.
Got Justin Bangura there. Some very good players, yeah.
Their two wingers, for example, were just incredible against us. I think Justin scored 2 or 3 goals, but it's just the clinical nature of they're through 1-on-1. It's in the net. You just don't know. But I made a howler in goal. We had our left back is 37, still very fit and he can run, but he's running up against an academy 18-year-old who just skins him in and out and. Gets in, it's just that little thing where they just know how to make that little run at the near post for a tap in, where they run to the byline, cut the ball back, and they just have that sharp movement.
That's
where,
it.
They're practicing and training all the time. And, but I don't think that team should ever envy that, because if you ever come up against them again, you'll do things slightly better the next time. And when my team went up to the Premier Division on Saturdays, so my team's Saturday journey has been, it's been not a roller coaster. It's been very difficult because building a team from scratch without those contacts and bringing in people that aren't at that level. And then we started in COVID. We had a good year in our first year. We had some decent players. COVID pretty much ended it for half of the squad. They just didn't come back. They didn't have they weren't motivated to play. Then we were put into a Division 1 and we were lower mid-table. We won a few games, lost a few games, and then COVID happened again and lockdowns happened. But then they merged the divisions and we were in the Prem, and we weren't ready for it in the slightest. But basically what happened was that we were playing good teams that in the East Berks League, it's a different type of league. It's the best teams are step 6 level, Hellenic Combined Counties League level. Yeah. And the best teams in there are Britwell, Old Windsor, Sing Saba. And, Sing Saba are technically the best team that we've played because they're technical. They've got a lot of five-a-side players that play at a very high level. And we won a cup that year.
Sorry, Rob, not to
sorry.
You.
Yeah.
I just need to go to the toilet.
Yeah, okay, that's all right. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I'm back.
All good, mate, no problem. But yeah, so what I think my point was that when you play teams that are above your level, and they're above your level, when we were playing some of the better teams in our league, like Sing Saba, we won a cup competition that year. And I think we only won it as a result of having those experiences of playing the better teams in our league.
Absolutely.
And we played, for us, we got a point against Sing Saba away from home on a 4G pitch. And we just signed our goalkeeper, Jamie. He had an amazing performance. And, we were a growing team, complete grassroots team. We were playing against some really good players at that level. Got a 2-2 draw, should have won it in the last kick of the game. And that game, I think, was the turning point for the team altogether, where we just we knew how to then manage big games. And yeah, I just feel like some teams just really avoid that growing experience. I would rather get pumped 9-0 against a really good give-back team, and then the next time it's 7-0, and then the next it's 5-0, and then the next it's 4, and then we'll get a couple of goals as well. And I just think that's the way that teams want to go about it. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of teams want to shirk away from accountability a
Yeah,
lot of the
but I
time.
think in
Yeah.
in the lower divisions now in Reading, I think you've got. I think teams of whether no one's sort of gonna maybe openly admit to this, but I think like when people look at Bapco, I think they get motivated now. I think a lot of people now look at Bapco and think, right, like okay, cool, like we can emulate what they've done or put together, bring together a good group of footballers and rise. I think you look at Nag's Head. I got a lot of time for them. Like great what they're doing. I think a lot of the boys used to play for Bradfield, but they're just obviously working the divisions. And I think in 3 or 4 seasons they'll be a strong outfit as well. So I think there's loads of teams that I think are coming through the ranks now, going okay, cool. Like there's a team at the pinnacle of Sunday football in Reading that sort of made the top division exciting. Like I think that's one thing Bapco has done is made the top division a bit more competitive now, because people just come out now with that expectation like it's a game when we play them and vice versa, and they know if they're not at their best it can get embarrassing, and no person wants to go home conceding 6 and 7s, 8s, 9s and 10s against a quality side, because for us it's just business as usual. But and even in those games where we've scored loads of goals, like the boys will tell you, I'm still searching for that level of professionalism that I think we can apply to our game. And yes, there'll be the naysayers that'll be like, it's only Sunday League football, but that's how I approach anything that I do, with a level of, if I'm going to do it, let's be the best at it. If I'm not going to give 100%, then I'll leave it alone.
100%, especially with being in the Sunday Cup. It's, there's always another level to go, and you never
Correct.
know when the next level will go, because some of those London teams are very strong, some of the Liverpool teams are quite strong. So yeah, just there's always a level to achieve, and because you guys had it. Was it? Did you draw with Nag's Head in pre-season? Was that right? Or a really
We
tight
beat
game?
them 3-1, but it was a good game. That's what I said. I said it's a good game, like, and it was a game that it asked questions of us, and it was probably one of those games where I came away thinking, okay, cool, this is where maybe we need to address certain issues going into the season. And I think if you look at us last season, for instance, I think where we sort of maybe weren't as competitive was in our work off the ball. I think this season we've got the appetite back again to do not only great things on the ball but off it as well, just making it difficult for teams when they play us now, like gaining the ball back inside 5 seconds and really going and press high and be aggressive in a way that allows us to go and win the ball back and score goals. And one thing we're doing that we didn't do a lot of last season, we're keeping clean sheets consecutively and back to back as well. Because even in the FA Sunday Cup, we've scored 29 goals and not conceded yet. So yes, some people might say, well, is the opposition have? That's not for me to debate. We've just go out there and do what we need to do to get ourselves through the rounds.
And so we talked a little bit about it just before we started the podcast today, but this kind of like leans into like the management of the team, and you're obviously at the heart of that. How do you keep everything ticking at Bapco? Because you guys have a large squad. How do you manage those expectations with the squad, especially at that level?
So I think it's not just down to me. I think what I have is a great management team. So obviously we have myself, obviously, as the manager. We have obviously Sean as the assistant manager, and obviously Jordan Blake, who is Woodley FC's first team manager in Step 6. He's obviously our first team coach at Bapco, and everyone plays their role. Everyone plays to their strengths. I think everything we do, we sort of run it by. I will naturally set the tone of what the team's going to be and how I believe we should go and approach the game. But ultimately, I'm never too afraid to take on feedback and take on maybe a different look or a different approach. Like everything we do as a collective. I think it's just being open and transparent. I think one thing I do is like I fully trust the squad. So whether we have everyone available or who you like to be available or so on and so forth, I trust the squad from the first person to the 51st person that we have signed on. So even at times where maybe everyone's like, oh, such and such is missing or such and such is not here this Sunday, I'm like, boys, I trust who's available. And I'm just inspiring that and into transferring that into the players, giving them the confidence and belief and just knowing, being very tactful when to do the hair dryer treatment and when players just need to an arm around their shoulder in order to. But I don't really have to dip into that hair dryer bag too often. I think importantly, because we win, it makes my job a lot easier. So it's hard for players to sort of come in and sort of playing, or because when you're winning, you kind of, it's easy for me to say, well, I can keep this squad if everyone's available because they won the last game and so on and so forth. But also, I mentioned to everyone, it's about us. Bapco is not about Sheldon. It's about each and every person that pulls on the shirt, and I think it's about the buy-in. How we've gained that buy-in from everyone is obviously everyone sets up their club differently. But I think if you want a real buy-in, the way I went about it was we don't charge a huge signing-on fee. So what we do at Bapco is obviously it's a £10 signing-on fee, but you buy your kit. You pick your number, and I think what that does, it breeds, like if you've invested 36 or 40 quid into a kit, you want to use that kit throughout the Sunday. So you're more likely to make yourself available throughout the season because it's an investment you've made. Whereas I could have easily gone and spent 500-600 quid on a kit, number it from 1 to 11, and then whoever is available turns up and puts it on. So I think that's how we've got the buy-in from a lot of the players, because they've made a personal contribution to their own kit. So therefore they've picked their own numbers, and they get to come out and show out in their kit. So that's one way to do it. I'm not saying it's perfect. It has its challenges in terms of, obviously, a £10 is in this day and age is not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that normally just takes care of maybe our re-signing on fee and then our bits and bobs for the backs and bucks. But I think it gives us a great platform for players to want to turn up every Sunday to use their kit, essentially.
I like that. It's more of the mental edge where, we do it differently. I buy all the kits here, and when I started, we kind of got everything up and running because I thought, okay, we need it first, and then we divvy it out. So I kind of like that approach. It makes me think differently about how players mentally want to prepare.
Yeah, I just speak to a lot of the players as well. Like I'm always asking questions. Like I'm never like. There has been moments where I've lost my rag, and I'm like, anyone who knows me, like I love football, like. And being an Arsenal supporter is even more emotional. But
I'm a Newcastle fan, mate. So let's not trip into those. But let's not go down that rabbit hole too much.
but with Bapco, I get to tap into the man management side of it continuously, and I get to challenge the players, not necessarily like shouting and screaming, but just get to ask them questions like, "How do you view the game?" Like. Why did you do that? But get them to explain like different bits and bobs and get them to thinking about the game differently. Because I think, obviously, when my brother is a professional, I think it allows me to give information that isn't probably readily available to everyone if you haven't got access to the professional game. So it's just bits and bobs you sort of get to learn and understand how managers at the top level sort of operate and see the game. I think once you start coming down the pyramids, you start seeing a lot of effing and blinding and managers just speaking to players like robots, but they're people. Like How like I got. That's why I always stress to my players how it's important for the Wednesday sessions. It's not necessarily about the quality, but it gives me an opportunity to touch base with them, see how everyone's week's going. Some of them had a shit week, and if we don't have that Wednesday session, by the time it comes around to Sunday, their week could have been very poor, and then I'm asking them to go out there and perform on a Sunday. So you have to balance all of those things. People got kids, people got jobs, missuses, wives, girlfriends, like all of those things that impact humans. And then you're putting football on top of that. Football might not be the priority on that Sunday.
No, especially if they're doing Saturday League as well.
Correct,
Sometimes you're
and
thinking,
that's another thing.
yeah.
I have to respect that someone's just done 90 minutes on a Saturday against even like better players, and push themselves physically to then turn up on a Sunday, and give us another 90 minutes is the first thing I always do every Sunday is thank people for their time, first and foremost, and then after that, like just set out three, maybe maximum five expectations what I would like to see from the game, and just not overload players with like formations and this and that. Just stick to the 3 or 5 principles of what I think football should entail, which is work for the person to the left and right for you. Can we keep our shape? Can we defend as a team well? Regain possession of the ball quickly if we lose it, and take our chances. And I think once you cover those basic what's the word I'm looking for? Principles.
Yeah.
I think you get right. Like I know for some people, like for managers in Sundays, it's an opportunity for people get caught up in showing how much of a tactical expert you are, but football is quite a simple game, and what overcomplicates is humans and not. So my thing is these are human beings and they should be treated with a level of respect and integrity. Otherwise you just and I always take that, even if I got a paid job in non-league football tomorrow, like those values wouldn't leave me, because now I'm being paid X amount to manage a team in step 4 or step 3 or wherever in the Saturday pyramid. It's more about, you have to understand the dynamics. Like, this is not the pro game. Players are not getting hundreds of thousands of pounds a week. Like, they have to balance life as well as football.
Yeah, and you've hit something on the head, because with the way that people approach football sometimes, when they don't have, somebody that's been in the pro game, like you said, if you can lean on that experience and say, oh, what happens at Brentford? What happens here? I have trialed a few managers, and I speak to people that in this level, even at step 6, step 5, where a lot of these tendencies tend to happen. The overcomplication of football drives me insane sometimes. Like, I would say, I speak to managers a lot of the time who are so focused about what they can do and what they can offer to the table, they completely bypass some of those emotive things that the players are going through, such
Correct.
as if they're having a bad week, it's all about, okay, I need to basically overcomplicate a training session. I need to do this. And as long as I'm happy at the end of the training session, I think it starts at training. You reset for the week. If you have a bad training session where the coach turns up and it's all about himself, it's all about what he can achieve and what he can put onto his resume, and he can talk himself up. I always think that's a bad start to a week. I always feel like you've got to feed off the players and what they want and what,
Correct.
but not what they want, but kind of, you have to meet them halfway.
No, but it is what they want. This is what I'm saying. It is what the players want, because ultimately you're trying them. You're motivating them to gain something that you want, which is a positive result at the end of the 90 minutes. So essentially, it's about what they want. And I think if you speak to most pros, they will tell you the reason you see weaves of patterns of play, weaves different. It's because they get the training hours. We don't get that at our level. No. I don't get to spend. If I got to spend 5 hours a day with Bapco players, mate, we'll be winning games 50-0. Like, you add the training hours with the quality that we have, it's a long day for for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
then you have to strip it right back and go, what it is am I trying to achieve on Sunday? Cool. I just need us to work hard for one, keep a clean sheet. How do we do that? Can we defend as a group? And when we come up in our 1v1 defending, can you dominate the attacker? That's it. Like all of this, like you don't get everything we see at the pro game is because they get the training hours. These guys are in at 8:30 and not leaving the training ground till 3. They're training, they're watching videos, they're speaking to player analysts about this and that. We don't get that at this level. So you have to make the environment as simple and as enjoyable, but balance the fact that these people, football isn't everyone's full-time job.
Yeah, it's not a be-all and end-all for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, some people just turn up just because they want to be in a environment with the man them and just enjoy it. That's it. Like they're not trying to hear about being the inverted fullback. They do not care about it.
I don't know about you. I'll tell you about one experience that when I started managing, I was a little bit raw, as you are when you're not in that scene. And I had a couple of people lean on me about, because I basically, when you're involved at a club and it's your baby and you want to birth it and really like grow and develop with it, it's hard to try to separate your emotions sometimes. And a lot of whenever I speak to my team about, how should I approach a team talk? I want to talk about other stuff, and I want to, we train on a Wednesdays and we play casually on a Thursdays. And a lot of my team are like, no, just keep it super simple. My captain, Vince at the time, and my current captain Phil now, they're always like, no, in a team talk, don't bring in politics from the week. Just keep it simple. Say hello to everybody, greet everybody with respect, and just keep it super simple. We don't want to hear about bullshit, about drama, or anything that could like get into people's heads. We just want to turn up and we want to be given clear and direct instructions. And so that's kind of a principle that I go off. I try to keep it super simple, especially when you're managing. I know that we're not doing a lot, but mentally we're doing a lot, and we're running about dealing with referees, team sheets, warm-ups. We're dealing with people that might be running a few minutes late. There's a lot that we do, and especially when you play at the lower levels and you might have to set up the goal nets or move down the goals. We have to lug goals about 300 meters down a giant hill and back up again. So, we've got to turn up super early to do all of that. And I had a couple of trial managers in where, bless them, they're starting out, and I hope that they've improved. But, their first thing was to talk about their experience and what they want to bring. They didn't talk about the players and everything. And at the end of the game, we won this game 7-6 in pre-season, and we're just sitting there going, "Oh God, that was awful," because of the instruction. It was all about the manager reveling, and it's just like, oh God. But no, so it's I always try to stress the basics. I also did a coaching presentation for one of my first podcast episodes where I try to go through some of the bad habits that players have, or not players as much, but managers have, where they come into the game and they overcomplicate things. They put down 1 million cones at training and they don't even know how to do it. We had one trial manager who had set up a drill, but he had never practiced it. And I was literally watching him look at his phone like this, and he was reading it out as if he was reading it for the first time.
This is crazy.
There's 10 of us stood at the halfway line, and a few people stood on the side. And he's looking around. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's rushing himself. He's overcomplicating matters. And I think we stood around for the session for half an hour whilst the manager tried to do his own thing and to try to get across his point of view. And in the meantime, I've got 20 cold players that are stood around trying their best to be patient with him. And
and I think it's what a lot of managers like. It's adults. You're coaching adults, so naturally, a lot of the players you're going to come in contact with now have formulated how they perceive the game to be played. So you can't without the coaching hours. That's why I keep going back to the coaching hours. It's hard for you to stamp your way or how you believe football should be played on an adult who's already probably prefers the Pep Guardiola or the tiki-taka way of football. And you might be a manager that wants to go route one. And you might have a player in your team that you're screaming route one, and he just wants to beat everyone in the team and go and score. So it's essentially, I always say to managers, if you're someone who fixates with fundamentals and principles, you might want to start with kids, because you can impact, you can build their foundations from an early age, and you're learning to implement those principles and do the drills and do all of that. But if you're someone who's gonna your aspirations is to manage adults, you have to actually find, am I good with people first and foremost? Because some of the best managers I know in non-league have come in contact with you. No disrespect, they might not know a lot about tacticians.
They're not Pep.
But they're great people managers. Like, they manage people the best. Like, they can get men to run through brick walls. So whereas some managers I come across know the game inside out, horrible people. They just don't get it. They don't know when to switch off from just doing the hairdryer thing. They just don't grasp it at all. They just and I think it's a balancing act, and the best managers in non-league know how to do both very well. They understand the game, they understand how to make changes in game, and they know how to identify which players need a bit of gearing up to, and they know the players that they need to put an arm around to get that confidence back in those players. So that's what I always say, like, study the game. Like, I always tell people, study the game. Like, there's loads of football books I read them. Like, I'm obviously subscriber to 442. Like, if you become a student of the game, you start to formulate in that a lot of football is about people management. It's not necessarily about like understanding how to break down a 3-5-2 or 4-4-2. A lot of it is, can you deal with people? Can you manage people? And can you manage people's expectations of themselves and yours?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I always stress to people that want to do their coaching badges in particular, because I did mine last year, my level 1, I got it for free from the county FA. And they said, is it worth doing? And I said, well, put it like this. If you don't do the course, where are you starting? And, what are you going to take as your fundamentals into the game? Because I said that's essentially what the course is. You're learning basic fundamentals. And the weekly webinars that I was doing was purely stressing to not overcomplicate the game, to keep it super, super simple. Play structured games, just play football and slowly work in little drills into these games where it doesn't overcomplicate things. It keeps the ball moving. People are paying subs. And the trainers, mostly what I thought was good is that they had good people management skills to say, look, you're dealing with people that are only going to be training an hour or two a week, kids all the way up until the adult game. So you can't basically turn up with 1,000 bibs and 200 cones and stick them down and overcomplicate things. And I said, well, if you don't do the course, you're not gonna understand that. And I would always stress, if you're really interested in the fundamentals, the first course is a moneymaker for the county FA, but I actually think it's really worth it.
It is worthwhile. I think you understand that, like, it's not about shouting and screaming. It's just knowing your people, getting to know your players, and that's what a lot of the players that come into Bapco, like, I knew of them, but over this last 3 seasons, like, I actually know each individual, something pivotal about them personally. So I will always reiterate that to them and ask about that. How's your daughter? How's your kids? How's this? How's work? So that you're always having that personal conversation, which will then normally give you that insight to see where this person is. Are they ready to play today? Do they need maybe they need a rest? Maybe they just need to not be involved, or maybe they do need football this week because that might be the stress relief that changes their new week. And I think what we've seen in what I've seen in the Bapco group chat, you've seen players that at the start of our journey were quite shy. Some of them were shy, timid, wouldn't have much conversation, but now, like, everyone gives inputs, and we actually don't speak that much about football specifically in the group, other when it's me communicating about games and training. It's a lot of healthy debate about politics, finances, like all of those things that we all go through on a day to day, and understanding people's perspective on spirituality and different aspects of life. So that's a testament to the work that we all do as a collective.
Was that put in place in day one? Was that happening on day one? Those
Yeah, like
conversations.
I'm always like, I'm a person I like to like reason in general, like learn about people. So I will always like just conversations, but I'm a person like, it's not about, we don't go just straight into like, oh, so are you conservative or Labour? Like you just start building it up, like, and that normally I'm a funny like character anyway, like banter. I'm always here for the banter, so you kind of start with the banter, and normally someone will say something that will trigger a conversation, and then in that I'll probably just observe like people's responses. Okay, cool. So I understand like people's different triggers, what triggers you, what you're passionate, what you're not passionate about, and so on and so forth. So yeah, from day one we've always had that, and then you've just seen that everyone's characters sort of everyone come out of their shell, where we feel sort of comfortable to speak about near enough anything without anyone feeling judged or disrespected.
No, I think that's really good. With my team, it took about a year. I think we had a really shy year in the very first 12 months where you're learning people and they're trying to get out of their shell. But as soon as we hit that second season, the players that we retained, it was everybody started talking a lot more. It was a lot more together because people felt more comfortable in that environment. And it does get better over time when you start a new team. If you think people aren't involved, it's usually because they're too, like what you say, they might be a bit timid to speak up, or they don't know the environment. They don't know if they're going to be, let's say they're going to like rib one of the teammates. They don't know if they're going to get, crap for it, or, how that's going to go down. But over time, that does help big time. What's helped my team is that I have a specific, we do everything through WhatsApp. Most teams do. So we have an updates group where we have club specific updates, and then we have the main group, which is just for like casual talk.
We have the Bapco group, and then the social. If the Bapco group goes off, no one misses communication, so you have to move that to the social.
So yeah, we have a lockdown group where only the admins can update the club with anything going on, and then there's one for the players to speak freely in, just so that, for example, I don't know where the address is for the game tomorrow, and then because they've missed 55 chats. So yeah, we like to separate business and the pleasure side of football as well. No, and I would stress any new team that wants to start up a team, they have to do that. You have to have an updates group, or like a formal group where club and updates, games, and a social group, and then maybe a management group as well for the management team.
But then also what you see, because obviously what you see, not everyone in the football group normally, because like obviously in our social group, not because some people everyone contributes to Bapco, but not everyone necessarily wants to be like their WhatsApp going off, like because off. It does, like sometimes at work I'll leave it, I'll come back 700 messages. I'm like what? It's 11 o'clock in the day. What are we really discussing?
What's going on in the world?
What's going on in the world? So I get it. But everyone, once we're together on a Sunday, like it's just like this thing, like it just clicks together, and everyone is pulling in the same direction. So it's a good group to currently be the custodian that gets to lead these group of great men, and like I said at the start, my sort of next 2 to 3 years is about just creating a good solid foundation, so when I do decide to take a back seat, that someone can come in and flourish, and without having to worry about the future of the football club.
So we've segued into a really good element of it. I always love to ask my guests what they've learned in their development cycle. You mentioned to me before we started that you kind of have like the 5-year plan where you're going to help stabilize the club and help grow it and build those foundations. So between 2021 when you started and today, what are the biggest things that you've learned from this experience? First of all, have you been involved in a football club at this level before? Yeah, so
basically, when I think more than a few years ago, I think, obviously, I used to run a Sunday league team called Kensington Athletic. So we started that like in 2000 and I think 16. 17. So it was ages ago. Did it, and at the time, the reason I did it was, I think my brother just had been released from Reading, was playing with his mates in the park, and I just wanted to just get him back into men's football, like, because I always think it's important, like, when you get released from, not to segue, but when you get released from academy, it's always a tough one to take, and some players obviously can just fall out of love with the game. But so I just wanted to create an environment where he can just play men's football, just so like at least he's
so he
ahead
didn't fall
of
off the
curve.
tracks.
Yeah.
So he didn't fall off the tracks. Yeah.
So he didn't fall
That
off
happens
the
a lot. I know. I've when you come across people in football, the amount of people that just drop off the face of the earth if it doesn't work out for them at academy level, or typically, lads when they finish their school days, they stop playing football because they're not playing with their friends. They go to uni and they just drop off the face of the earth with it. I did that when I went to uni. I just didn't play football for 5 years. I just don't know why. It just happens.
It's tough, isn't it? Because
it's tough.
It's a knock, and it's a knock to your confidence. Like all I say, like, no one prepares you for the no, innit? Like, they prepare you. Obviously, you're in academy. You're. No one's preparing you for the no. Everyone's preparing you for.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen because, like I said, it's as good as academies are. It's a quota-based system institution. Like, they always need a constant flow of people coming through there. That's essentially what it is. And when you look at the stats, only 1% of academy players make it professionally. I think it's like 0.966 in the Premier League if you look at it from that perspective. So no one's ever preparing you for that when we're cutting your time short. And if you're a player that doesn't have a good support system around you, good family, good friends, it can be very tough. So from that early, I was like, you have to create an environment where players can come and enjoy the game without feeling as though they're not good enough anymore. So from that early, it's been switched on. So that obviously we did that, but again, naturally, when you're building good teams at the time, because I had a lot of good young players, but I think we was in Division 3 at the time in Reading Sunday League. Naturally, the senior division teams come and start pinching your players, and it becomes just this thing where it's just not sustainable. So then we folded the team, and then I just said to myself, if I'm going to ever get back into Sunday football, it has to be something that we can do sustainably, and it has to be at the top division. So for when Bapco came about, then obviously that's when I just went full steam ahead. But I think the greatest thing I've learned, just to answer your question, is just I'll say what I've learned about myself is, I think I definitely know at some point in my time I have to work in football. Like, that's where like Sundays come around and I'm mad. Like, my missus will tell you, mad. Like, Saturday nights, even to a point now, she would say, like, we do date nights on a Friday because Saturday
you're useless.
Saturdays I'm useless. I'm at the table, my phone's going off. Like, it's just like, I get mad excited about it, and it's not just because it's Bapco and it's hours, but just like in general. Like, so I think that's what it is. Sort of at some point I've got to pivot into working in football in some capacity, and just like learning to be emotionally stable, because I think that the best managers are ones that no matter what is going wrong, like, people could be screaming, you're able to just stay nice and centered and be direct, but be balanced in what you're saying. And I think it is definitely allowed me to be that. Granted, and it allows me to just tap into a lot of the stuff that I have to do from a work perspective, from a people aspect. So those are the things that is sort of taught me over the last 3 years. And just to be honest, like, I know it's this thing people say in football, but really and truly, like, most players, if you're honest with them, they might not agree, or they might not subscribe to your honesty, but more time they have to respect it, because you're not. And I think it's something Mikel Arteta said. He said like it's a thing where you bring in good players, but you're also responsible for their career, and sometimes you can improve it or derail it. And that's something I've always like took on board. Like when you bring players in, like don't just bring players in because it's a good player. Just make sure that when they do come into the fold, that you're transparent with them what they're up against, so that at least they're making the choice for themselves and not being sold a dream. And then ultimately, football is an opinion-based sport. So my opinion of any player is not the word. It's not gospel. It's my opinion, and with opinions, it could be a different opinion or a right or wrong opinion. So you just gotta just develop a thick skin in the football world, and understand it's an opinion based sport, and people are gonna have different opinions. You just gotta find an environment that backs your opinion, and do well and enjoy it while you're there, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. So so about the job, working in football, did you have that same opinion when you started Bapco? Did you want to work in football before that, or because of your involvement at that, was
No, I
that a
think I've
trigger
always
point?
wanted to work in football, but
Yeah.
you see, my thing here, like, I'm similar to the Dorking manager. You know what? Where I think,
Oh yeah, Mark
like,
Mark
I
White, is
like
it that?
Mark
Yeah.
because I think we have a lot of people with great badges, but they're horrible, like managers, like just horrible people. Like, I think what it is essentially is like the badges give you your license to operate in the game, but you might just not know how to deal with people. And I think, but I understand, like, if you want to work professionally in football,
Got to play the
essentially you
game.
have to have the certificates to give you that. So
Yeah.
I for a long time I was off from like the mark cloth, where I was just thinking like, brother, like how many coaches I've met that have all of these badges but can't just can't implement none of those things in a setting when they're dealing with people. So I think the passion's always been there, but I think working with Bapco and just getting more and more, like the boys are onto me as well. They're like, some of the boys are like, when you gonna get like a non-league job or so on and so forth. I'm just like, it's made me think about it, because essentially, I do a non-league manager's job on a Sunday. Like, I'm dealing with players that play minimum step 4, step 3 football. So
Yeah.
there's managers that's getting paid £400-500 a week to pick the 16s that I do on a Sunday, essentially. So yeah, it's kind of boosted my appetite to work in football full time even more. But I think it's always been there. I think what Bapco has shown me, that I can do it if I really wanted to pivot firstly into the Saturday game, and maybe work the non-league pyramid, and eventually, potentially, who knows, down the line,
Yeah, you
really
never know.
get a job in the professional game.
No, that's really good. And just to end, because I know that we've been going on for more than an hour, nearly an hour and a half now. What do you see Bapco doing in the next couple of years? Because obviously, what's your ambitions? Because you had that 5-year plan. Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years with Bapco, like with the
I
team?
think for me, like, essentially, I think between now and the 5th year, I would like to win that Sunday FA Cup. I think not only, I think the last club from Berkshire to win it was Theo in 1989. So just for a town, it'd be good just to bring that cup back to Berkshire. That'd be a brilliant achievement. But essentially, just we've already started it like this season, just grabbing the youngsters, because one thing I'm always conscious of is people's lives are changing. People are starting to have kids. So some of our best like players are starting to create their own families. So their lives are changing, and they won't always have the same commitment level. So if you look this season, we've got obviously Jaden Wiggins, who plays at Aldermaston, Marston, is 16 years old. He's playing for us, like, exceptional player. I think if he continues to develop at the rate I hope he does, we should see him playing minimum like a good level in the non-league game, if not if not a pro, if luck is on his side and he finds the right pathways. We've got who are obviously Geordie is still young. We got Louise and the Lepai brothers. They're all in Mai's with us as well. Like, so I'm grabbing the youngsters now just to make sure that we have a constant stream. But I think if not next season, maybe in our 5th season, probably create a reserves team, but like, and try and fill that up with some youngsters and maybe use that as a way of really putting on real good coaching sessions to help those young players. And I think, essentially, my ultimate goal for Bapco is for our players who are having kids. So when their kids, girls and boys, are older, they have a place where they can come and play and enjoy the game that we all love, which is football.
Ah, that's brilliant. And apart from that, I just want to thank you for being on the podcast today. It's been such an honour and a privilege to speak to somebody that's at the top end of that Sunday League bracket. Apart from that, I just want to say, just thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on, Rob. And I think keep up the great work that Hype Train is doing. I think just someone from afar looking in, I think the work you guys are doing is exceptional on a Sunday and Saturday. Like, everything about you guys is an inspiration in terms of, for myself, like from the kits, the different kits every Sunday to the graphics to the pictures in front of the goal every Sunday. All of those things, I think they're little nuances that just add real value to what you guys do. So continue to do that.
Oh, mate, you got to do it.
I can support you guys. I'm more than happy to do that.
Ah, lovely. And we'll leave it there, but thank you for your time.
All right, then. Thank you.
One more time, I would like to thank Sheldon for all of his efforts and his contributions today. It's really good when somebody's enthusiastic and wants to jump on board to talk to me about local and grassroots football and above. It's really interesting to understand a perspective of a person and a team like Bapco and Sheldon that really wanted to hit the ground running. And within a couple of years, they are arguably the premier team within the Sunday League pyramid as well. It's been a great privilege so far to have the podcast up and running, episode 15. Time is flying. And of course, I'd love for everybody to subscribe to the channel right now, to give this video a like, follow Hype Train FC on our website, hypetrainfc.com. We're also looking for other volunteers and guests that want to talk passionately about local football or other footballing interests on the podcast today. You can get in contact with us via our website or our email address, contact@thehypetrain.co.uk. And aside from that, I'd just like to thank everybody for their time and their interest and enthusiasm following our podcast journey on our channel as well. And I hope that you're also enjoying some of the highlights that the team are providing as well. And until next time, as ever, believe the hype.